Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film my TBR check-in and book haul for the month of December. So this is the this is the be-all and end-all, right? This is what we've all been waiting for. The end of the year check-in to see how I did in keeping my TBR under control. And I did very well. I'm very excited by where I've ended out the year. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So for the month of December, I read a total of 10 books, 9 of which were off my physical TBR. I brought in 11 books. It was Christmas, remember. I unhauled 3 books. That left me with a -1 for the month and got me to 100 books total on my TBR. At the end of 2024, I ended out with exactly 100. I started the year with 111, so I actually reduced my overall TBR by 11 books. And you can see that with these, I've kind of totaled it up on the bottom. I don't know if you can see those very well, but I read a total of 153 books over the course of the year. That was all the books that I read, was 153 books. 85 of those were off my physical TBR, and I only brought in 82 books. So I brought in less than I read, which is number one, awesome. And then I unhauled 8, so that gave me the 11 to get down to 100. And that sort of is in keeping with what I'm feeling right now at the beginning of 2025, and that is I want to be better about DNFing and unhauling books that I am not excited about, because I have so many books that I want to read. I have a finite amount of time to read those books in, and I don't want to waste my time with books that I am not enjoying or that I am no longer interested in. So I'm really going to try hard this year to be better about that. So let's get into the details of this momentous occasion of having a physical TBR of 100 books. First of all, let's talk about the book that I DNF'd. There were one DNF and 2 unhauls, so like 3 total for the minus. And that was the last book off what I was calling my ancient TBR. And those were books that I had brought into my home in 2019 or earlier. And that was this book, Lanarch by Alasdair Gray. And this novel is older. I think it was first published in 1969 and then republished in 1981, and then republished again in the 2000s. And this book is very non-traditional in its narrative style. The first thing that struck me was when I looked at the table of contents and realized that book 3 is first, and then we go back to the prologue and book 1, and then book 2, and then book 4, and then the epilogue. And so the book starts out in the middle of the story, and it's basically, from what I can understand, because I did read the introduction, which is written by, in this edition, is written by William Boyd, I think. And this is magical realism, and it was compared to Ulysses, only it takes place in Glasgow. And I read the first couple of chapters, and I didn't understand what was going on. It follows a young man who is in this state of ennui and doesn't know what to do with his life and is sort of moping around, and I just didn't care. And also, I do not like the print in this book, and so it was hard to read, and I was like, why? This is a 500-page novel that I just am not committed to, so I decided to DNF this one. And I'm trying not to feel guilty about it, but that's what I decided to do. And then I decided to unhaul books 2 and 3 in a science fiction trilogy. I read the first book. The first book was Wool by Hugh Howey. I read this book years ago, and it was okay. It was fine. It's not super memorable. And then I've had Dust and Shift. No, Shift comes first, and then Dust, book 2 and book 3, on my TBR, and I just never want to read them. And I was looking at my bookshelves and thinking, do I really want to read these 2 very long science fiction books that I'm really not interested in? And the answer was no. So I'm just going to unhaul those, send them out into the world where somebody else will super enjoy those, I'm sure. And I think, they'll have a better home elsewhere. So that's the 3 books that got taken off the shelves without me reading them. And I am, like I said, I'm practicing this muscle in the coming year. And I started out the end of 2024, like really trying to be tough with myself on this one, or be strong for myself with this one. So let's talk about the new books that came in December that I am excited about. I have quite a few books here. Hold on. Okay, sorry if there's been a slight change in camera angle. I realized I didn't have all my new books here beside me to share with you. So I received very generously from many people quite a few books for Christmas and just as gifts, not necessarily Christmas gifts, and I want to share them with you. So the first three are from my husband for Christmas. He gifted me The Best American Science and Nature Writing 2024. If you have been around for a while, you know that I read these every year and I collect these. So I was very excited to receive it, and I have already started that one. And then he also gifted me Big Sister, Little Sister, Red Sister, Three Women at the Heart of 20th Century China by Yong, Chang. And I am buddy reading this currently with Britta Bowler, and sorry because it's very, very shiny. And so this is nonfiction, and I'm there, and it is about three women, early 20th century China, who were from the same family and have went on to be very central to the history of China throughout the 20th century. So yeah, very much enjoying that one, about 100 pages into it, and it's excellent so far. I've read this author before. I read Wild Swans by this author before, and it was excellent. And then he also gifted me The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I've read two other books by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think he's an exceptional writer, writing about Black history and culture and the American society and the intersection of those things. And this is, I believe, a collection of essays about three different journeys he took to different places in the world, and some thoughts that he had about those travels and the intersection with racism. So I love Ta-Nehisi Coates, so I definitely am excited to read that one. And then this is not a Christmas gift, but I was very kindly gifted this from a real-life friends of mine. Sent me Chasing Shadows, Unraveling the Mysteries of the Great White Shark by Greg Skomal with Rhett Talbot. And this is written by a biologist who studies great white sharks in the Gulf of Maine. And I mean, yeah, couldn't be more up my alley if it tried, and very interested to get to this one. It has excellent color photographs in the middle, which, I mean, look at that one. I mean, just amazing. And great white sharks have been more sort of in the public eye in my state of Maine in the last several years, and as there have been more encounters between humans and white sharks than have been recorded in previous years. So yeah, very interested in this one. And then another Christmas gift from real life friends. This is 6,000 Miles to Home, a novel inspired by a true story of World War II by Kim Dana Kupperman. And this is about a Jewish family that gets torn apart by war. They get sent to a labor camp in the Soviet Union, and then flee from there to Iran at the middle of World War II. So yeah, like not a story that I'm familiar with at all. Not super long. So this novel was gifted to me from my friends because they know this author, and this is a very compelling and important story to be told. Now, the next two books were gifted to me from my college roommate, and she knows my taste very well. And so the first is nonfiction. This is The Grimkes, The Legacy of Slavery in America The Legacy of Slavery in an American Family by Kerri, Greenidge. And this was a New York Times notable book in 2022. I had heard of this, but I had never read it. And I am interested in these types of stories, this type of history from the United States. I've read quite a few books in this vein, but not this one. So very interested to get to that one. And then she also sent me this collection of poetry called Poyums by Len Pennice. Len Pennice is a young Scottish poet, and my roomie always is sharing her reels on Instagram. She has just the most fabulous accent. And these poems some are written straightforward English and some are written in Scottish dialect. And so, yeah, it's quite an interesting little collection. I've already started this one as well. And then the rest of these are books from my parents for Christmas. And some of them do not add to my TBR because I've already read them. And so they are just books that I wanted for my permanent library. But the first, let's go through the ones that I have not yet read. This novel, Where the Forest Meets the River by Shannon Bowring. This is the follow-up book to The Road to Dalton, I believe was the first one. The Road to Dalton, which I read in November and really, really enjoyed. And this is stories that take place in northern Maine in a fictional small town. And just totally up my alley. Really, really enjoyed the first one. So very excited to read book 2. The next book that I need to read in my Octavia Butler reading project, this is Patternmaster. So this is a book in the Patternmaster series. It's the last one that I have to read in the Patternmaster series. And these are sort of science fiction-y, speculative books that are really looking at humans in humanity to other humans. And I've really enjoyed the first 3 books that I've read in this series of books. So I'll be getting to that one hopefully quite soon. And then a book for, let's see, I'm trying to get organized here that in an order that makes sense. This huge nonfiction chunker, this is Silent Spring Revolution, John F. Kennedy, Rachel Carson, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, and the Great Environmental Awakening by Douglas Brinkley. Like, this could not be any more in my wheelhouse if it tried. This is a combination of American history and environmentalism. This traces the growth of environmental legislation in the mid-20th century after the United States sort of like the industrialization of the United States took off, the nuclear age took off, the economy is booming, and we're just polluting the heck out of the environment. And then finally people are like, whoa, let's pump the brakes here and figure this out a little bit. And some of the most important environmental legislation that we have in the United States was passed in the 60s and early 70s. And this book sort of documents the history of all of those people, and Rachel Carson is a personal hero of mine. So very much interested to read this one. I believe that my friend Rachel and I will be buddy reading this in 2025. So excited for that. And then a book for the Book Naturalist Book Club that I haven't read out of our list for 2025. This is A Sting in the Tail, My Adventures with Bumblebees by Dave Gholson. And I have read one other Dave Gholson, I believe, and this is one of Doris's favorite science authors, and I am thrilled to have this one on my list to read for Book Naturalist in 2025. And then the last 3 books from my parents are books that I have read, but they are on the Book Naturalist Book Club list for this coming year, and so I will be rereading them in the course of 2025. And one of them is Eating to Extinction, The World's Rarest Foods and Why We Need to Save Them by Dan Saladino. And I originally read this for the BookTube Prize, not last year, but the year before, I believe. So interested to reread this one. I read it the first time in ebook, and so I'm glad to have the physical one for the reread. And then again, another book that I first read in ebook. This is Spillover by David Quammen, Animal Infections and the Next Human Pandemic. This book is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and a little bit terrifying, I'm not gonna lie, but very interested to reread this one as well. And then last but not least, one of my favorite books that I've ever read. This is I Contain Multitudes, The Microbes Within Us and a Grander View of Life by Ed Yong. Ed Yong, one of my favorite science writers of all time. And I might have listened to this one on audiobook the first time I read it. So again, going to read it this time in physical form. Again, has lovely color photographs in here. So very thrilled for that. So I was spoiled rotten in December, as you can see, with the number of books that came into my home. and I am super excited for starting out 2025 at 100 books on my physical TBR. It just feels so manageable to me, and I feel like my project here of like being intentional in my book acquisitions and like trying to really stay focused on the things that I'm most excited about reading has really served me well in the last several years, and I intend to keep moving forward in that direction in 2025. I mean, that's really my biggest goal, is to stay intentional and to stay focused on the books that excite me. And I think that's a very worthy goal, particularly for me in this stage of my life where I am so busy with work and family and all these things. Like, I need to be not trying to push myself through books that I'm not really enjoying. So anyway, that is my TBR check-in and book haul for the month of December. I hope that you had a fabulous month of December and got some great books brought into your lives. I hope you're all doing well, and I will talk to you later.